the Victoria and Esquimalt Police Board. I want to acknowledge with respect that we are within the Lekwungen speaking people's traditional territory, the Esquimalt and the Songhees First Nation, and we thank them for being able to live, work, and play within their territories. Board, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the public agenda. Thank you, Doug and Bella. All those in favor? Any opposed? For members of the public, I do want to say that we are welcoming 2 new members to the police board. We have Isabella Lee, who has been designated by the City of Victoria as their representative to the board. And we have Jeff Spencer, who has been appointed by the province. So welcome to you both. We will now move on to the presentations. And we're very pleased to have Fran Hunt. I'm going to mess this up, Fran, but Janushi, great, from the Aboriginal Coalition to End Homelessness, to give us a presentation. Fran, you have 10 to 15 minutes because we want to leave time for some questions at the end. So anytime you're ready, Fran, thank you and welcome. Heichka.
Thank you so much. So this is very exciting. Hello to you all. Gela Kesla. My name is Fran Hunt Janucci. I am Kwagil and Guskimuk from Northern Vancouver Island. I've been working and living on Coast Salish territory for over 20 years now. I am the executive director for the Aboriginal Coalition. Well, actually, I'm a little bit focused on research until April, but I will be back in my role. I'm here with my colleague, Julia, and Julia will introduce herself and she'll do the PowerPoint. So thank you for inviting us. We want to share with you some of the good work we're doing with Chief of Police Del Manic and Jason Laidman. We've had a working relationship for a number of years now that goes back to a focus group and surveys that we held with 5 groups in the city, Indigenous people experiencing homelessness. Really started out by asking 3 questions of the individuals. Where do you want to be in 3 years? What barriers might come up to prevent you from getting to where you want to be? And also what will help you, what will support you. From there, we started working with the police and made a commitment to build relationships, to not try to put a Band-Aid on, and that it really came down to the reciprocity of relationships. From there, we began to focus on the safety of women, and challenges with Vic PD came up in that, but also opportunities and solutions. So we applied for some funding. And so I'll hand that over to Julia to give you an overview of the project. And while she's putting it up there, I don't know, Del or Jason, if you just want to take a little bit of a few minutes or seconds to just share your perspectives before she goes into this.
Yeah, sure. I will. Thank you very much, Fran. And through you, Chair, I just again wanted to just say how much we value the relationship that we have with you, your team, and the Aboriginal Coalition, and how far we have come. I mean, I think it's a journey that still requires a lot of work, and we are excited, as you know, because we've already been with you during the initial kind of phase in and the discussion around the gender-based violence program. So I'll just turn it over to Julia to walk the board through the presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, Del. And I just want to let you know I'm coming to you from the traditional territory of the Beecher Bay First Nation, but much of our work, the majority of our work, takes place on the Lekwungen speaking people's territory in downtown Victoria. Thanks. Julia?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I am joining this evening from our downtown location, which, as Fran mentioned, is on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen speaking peoples. I myself have been a grateful visitor on these territories for the last couple of years. I got connected with the coalition about 14 months ago or so. And right now I'm in a role that's very much focused on our equity projects. So those related to youth, the 2S LGBTQ plus community, and everything related to gender-based violence. So I'm going to provide a little overview this evening on our project that we kicked off last October together. It's going to be ongoing for the next 3 years. So until the end of the fiscal in 2024. The purpose of this project is to increase the safety of Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit, and gender diverse people in Victoria, BC, and across Vancouver Island. And you'll see here in the photo with Dell, this is Roberta, who is going to be supporting us with doing this project. She's been connected with the coalition from the very beginning and really brings her expertise in having lived experience and coming as a peer to this work. So how will we increase the safety of Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit, and gender diverse people in Victoria? As Fran and Dell both touched on, we're going to be taking a relational approach. So over the last few years, we've participated in many community events together, be it Christmas dinners, sporting events, cultural activities, various things. So because of the pandemic, there's kind of been a pause for a little while, but we're in a place now where we are going to be resuming that relationship building. So really just stepping outside of our professional roles and getting to know each other really on that human level to break down any misconceptions and stigma that may be held. So the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls report also really highlights the importance of relationships. So on the left-hand side in yellow there, this is the challenge. So following negative encounters with police, many witnesses said that they no longer felt safe to reach out to the police when they were in danger. And on the right here is what I really believe is the opportunity. So in the moments of encounter that so many people identified as harmful or damaging, there is a new opportunity to create something better and to improve outcomes for Indigenous women, girls, and 2S LGBTQIA+ people. So what steps are we going to take to increase safety? These are really going to be our main 6 focuses over the next 3 years together. So we're beginning with this baseline assessment to evaluate where our organizations are at today in terms of the types of supports that we provide to Indigenous women and Two-Spirit people, what policies, what practices we have in place. And this will provide us with a way to really track our progress over the next 3 years. So at the end of the project, we know what kind of progress we've made together. Number 2, we're going to be holding a number of land-based safety days exclusively for Indigenous women to come together to continue the conversation about what their safety needs are, what kind of progress they're experiencing at the community level, and just provide that safe space to have those conversations. Number 3 is relationship building days. So this is one of the primary areas we're looking to engage with VicPD. And again, just kind of come together, whatever it may be, whether it be attending events again. We're going to do some planning and we're in the works with the women of deciding what they might want to do for these days. So definitely more to come on that, but we want to have as many people engaged in this as possible. And then number 4, nearing the end of this project, we're going to be looking at formalizing some of those commitments that we're making to each other by signing an MOU and a partnership model. So there are ways that VicPD and the Aboriginal Coalition provide support to Indigenous women and Two-Spirit people. And the way that we understand our roles is it's very complementary. There are some things that we're well positioned to do, some things that VicPD is well positioned to do. So we really just want to articulate that and put that into a more formal model. As part of this project, we're also piloting positions for Indigenous women. And then nearing the end, we're going to be holding a series of island-wide webinars that will be accessed by police, nonprofit organizations, and Indigenous leadership from across the island. So starting early in this project, we have really been trying to establish some working groups in various areas across the island, which I will touch on in just a moment. Oh, here it is. So here you can see there are the 5 sort of primary networks that we are building out. And so we've had initial meetings here in Victoria with Port Alberni, Port Hardy. We have 2 meetings scheduled for March with groups in Nanaimo and Campbell River. And these groups, as I mentioned, are made up of RCMP representatives, police representatives, Indigenous leadership, and nonprofit organizations that support Indigenous women. All right, so a little bit more on the webinars. The hope for the webinars, when we all come together in this collaborative way, is to be able to provide updates to each other around what are our wise practices, what are our challenges that we experience locally, and then for us to be able to share the resources, the partnership model that we've produced through this process, with the hope that it's going to be able to bring benefit to those across the island as well. This is really just a kind of a more in-depth 3-year timeline of what we're going to be working on together, broken down by year and quarter. And then why is it important to increase safety for Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit, and gender diverse people in Victoria, BC, and beyond? So this information comes to us from the National Inquiry again. And so this is giving us some kind of national statistics around the violence that's experienced by Indigenous women and Two-Spirit people. So I'll just give you a moment to sit with that. And the coalition has really been looking to learn, and Fran kind of mentioned what the experience is like at the more local level. So early on, when talking about what challenges are experienced by the Indigenous street family, there were some concerns that were raised around their interactions with police and what some solutions are moving forward. And back in 2019, we held the 3-day women's safety retreat, where we brought everyone together to talk about our experiences and to put forward solutions. So since this time, the coalition has been able to implement several of these recommendations, including building an outreach team, bringing on board an Indigenous clinical counselor. So numerous things that we're moving forward on, with relationship building being one of those. And I would just like to kind of wrap it up with these calls for justice that we're all working towards in doing this work together. So Call for Justice 9.2, we call upon all actors in the justice system, including police services, to build respectful working relationships with Indigenous peoples by knowing, understanding, and respecting the people they are serving. And 9.7, we call upon all police services to partner with frontline organizations that work in service delivery, safety, and harm reduction for Indigenous women, girls, and 2S LGBTQIA people to expand and strengthen police services delivery. And last but not least, I just want to acknowledge the funders of this project, Women and Gender Equality Canada. So these are the 3 pillars that they have for all of the projects that have been funded through this program. So 1 is working towards preventing gender-based violence, 2, supporting survivors and their families, and 3, promoting responsive legal and justice systems. That's everything that I have for today. So I'll leave it at that, and hopefully we have some time for questions.
Before we go to questions, Julia, can you just, because it's very relevant, we just received the results from Maya's research, even though it's a very small sample group. I think it's very relevant here because of the number of Indigenous youth.
Yeah, I'm just going to see if I can pull that up. Are you able to see my slides here? You are?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so this is some research going on in the city right now about access to harm reduction services for youth experiencing homelessness. This project is external to us, but was funded through the University of Victoria. The Aboriginal Coalition has been supporting through developing the methodology, helping to conduct the analysis, and we're nearing completion of this project now. So looking at the demographics of the youth who were involved, 12 out of the 16 that were surveyed identify as First Nations or Métis. Specifically, 8 were First Nations and 4 are Métis. And then out of those 16, 9 identify as 2S LGBTQIA+. So we are seeing a very significant overrepresentation of both of these populations among our young people experiencing homelessness. And so this is something for us to really strongly consider moving forward and to prioritize and to look towards solutions.
And just the local and national metrics, and then we can take questions.
Certainly. So across the bottom, I've highlighted there that 4% of people in Canada identify as 2S LGBTQIA+. Looking at this research, we have 56% of respondents that are identifying as 2S LGBTQ+. And then looking on the national scale, 1 out of 3 youth experiencing homelessness identify as 2S LGBTQIA+. Yeah.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. And Julia, is this the time to entertain questions?
Yes, please.
All right. Board members, questions?
Sean?
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. The question I have for either one of you is, where does the funding come from primarily for your organization?
So we are a nonprofit and we're a registered charity. We have no core funding. We've been in existence for 5 years, and it requires a lot of proposal writing just to pay our wages. I want to acknowledge the Victoria Foundation, particularly Sandra. If Victoria Foundation didn't get behind us in the first couple of years, there wouldn't be an organization. So we continue to try to reach out and get core funding from various ministries to do this work, because we are experiencing very good results, and we're doing this work really Indigenous led through Indigenous models of housing. But yeah, so we don't actually have core funding. We will apply where needed. I can tell you though that we went from 5 staff pre-COVID to 70 staff now. So with that comes a lot of capacity development in HR and audits. And so, we're going through our growing pains, but we're seeing really good results. We're right at the 11th hour right now of submitting a proposal for a healing house in the city of Victoria that will be able to provide treatment on site, as well as the new Catherine Street house that we're opening. We will be piloting an Indigenous detox program out of there. So we've got a lot of trajectories happening, but much of our work focuses on cultural supports and connecting people to the land, to elders, traditional foods in the context of our housing model.
Charla, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for all of the work that you do in this community. And I do acknowledge the importance of having Indigenous-led initiatives and bringing Indigenous lenses and Indigenous communications to these services. I also really just wanted to note too that I really appreciate, particularly as an Indigenous person myself, the presentation on the importance of partnering with other community partners such as Vic PD and acknowledging that this is something that we walk together as one. And I just really, really appreciated that in this presentation and that model, that this isn't one issue, this is all of our issues, and we need to work together to ensure people are supported. So thank you very much for all the work you do and the approach you're taking.
Thank you. And all, like I said at the beginning, the work that the commitment from our chief of police, from the countless hours that Jason's been involved as well, and other police officers that have come out, not because they're directed to, but because they're invited to come and build relationships, and to see them come out at night, to see them come out on their days off. I cannot express enough what that means. From our very first meeting, when we said we were going to start to build relationships with the police, I remember people that came that I didn't expect seeing from our street family, but they came out of curiosity, like, what? We're doing what with the police? And they stood back against the walls and, didn't quite fully mingle. And over time, it's just, it feels so good to see, people high-fiving the police and saying, see you next time, or sitting together and eating popcorn at a matinee. And that's where true transformation happens. It's not, it's genuine. And we've seen those numbers grow as well with the number of police that come out. And I really appreciated Dell's approach in not trying to mandate this through policy, or this is what you have to do. It really is leading by example and role modeling to others, that they get curious too. And they're like, oh, well, I'm going to try to go out to the next, but it sends a strong message to the community as well. It's really made a difference. We have a
Thank you.
long way to go though with women's safety. We really do. And the national findings reflect also what we heard, where we do have some women who, because of labeling or stigma, or they can be in situations where they need help, there is violence going on, but they do feel that when they call, that sometimes it's looked at as they're part of the problem, either because of their work that they're in, or where they've put themselves in that situation. And so we just want to get to a place where the women know our police officers, they know we're building relationships, they know there's a circle of care, and they know they have the commitment from us and Jason and Dell and others. And I think from there, we'll see those changes begin in how they feel and how they reach out.
Doug, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair. And I really appreciated this presentation, Fran and Julie. I certainly understand your program and your initiatives much better now. I do have a question, which, Fran, I think you've actually maybe mostly answered already. It is, or was going to be, I was wondering if the chief or Jason could elaborate maybe a bit more on specifically what the partnership is with the police department and what their roles are. Thank you.
Sure. Can I just, I'll ask Jason to kind of comment. Doug, are you talking about the gender-based violence project and what the role Vic PD plays within that project with the coalition?
Sure.
Okay. Jason, do you want to just touch a little bit about what we're doing and the role that we're going to play? And also, if you saw, one of the last steps was it's Victoria and beyond. So, we're able to kind of leverage our area chiefs group and our connections with the RCMP. We are far more advanced in our relationship with the coalition, and we have got higher levels of trust. And so we want to make sure that we can kind of bridge and use that to our advantage when we connect the coalition members to other parts of the island, to the RCMP. But Jason, go ahead, just a high level update.
Yeah, and just going backwards, actually, there was the gathering that we had a couple of weeks ago, that when we started reaching out as a coalition to the rest of the island already. the briefing on the gender-based violence project, and starting to, it was a stroke of brilliance by Julia and Fran and ACH to start bringing in people virtually from up and down the island to actually expand some of the best practices that have already been rolled out. The gender-based project is I really like the fact that it's embedded some of the relationship building exercises that we have already had to work on building that trust. So when we get together every quarter, those activities are going to be built into some of that project. More importantly, we're about to embark on a survey next month, well, February, I guess, where we're actually going to establish a baseline of internal knowledge, internal training on violence with Indigenous, our knowledge base and training on violence with Indigenous women and Two-Spirit. So that survey is going to be done every year. We're going to be held accountable, certainly to improve on that knowledge base and continue with the relationship building. So I'm quite excited about it. And it's a great initiative by ACH to come literally knocking on our door, wanting to build that relationships and further reconciliation, break down those barriers. So I'm always up for when Fran or Julia are asking for something, always willing to help, and it just warms my heart that we work so well together for so many years. So hope that answers your question, Doug.
And if I can just add, I'm sure you'd be very proud to just hear about those police officers that have been involved. And I think this is our Colin here, isn't it? Is this Colin who came out to events as well? And hi, good to see you. On one of the occasions when we were getting together to do relationship building, we were outside waiting outside the arena, and one of the women ran up and apologized for being late, but she had gone to take a look at the first time to a brand new home in the West Shore, an apartment that she was able to move into, because we have a whole spectrum of housing now, and we've transitioned 14 people into independent housing. But she was there and she was sharing. She couldn't believe it. She thought someone was going to tap her on the shoulder and tell her it wasn't true. She was saying, there's a dishwasher. I've never had a dishwasher. There's, anyway, she was going on about this beautiful brand new place. And Colin asked her a few questions and about her experience and moving in. And I wasn't paying much attention. I was kind of looking out for other people that were coming to the game. But you'll never realize, Colin, just how much you did and the impact you had. Colin messaged me the next morning and said he was so touched by the young ladies' pure joy, having nothing to move into her apartment with. No dishes, no blankets, no nothing. And she was so happy and so grateful and thankful. Well, Colin just got her a set of pots and pans and some dishes and a cutting board and some knives. And we had a housewarming for those individuals that were moving in, and shared what Colin had done and gave her gifts for her new home. And she literally, her knees buckled out from under her and was sobbing to think not only that someone would reach out and help, but that our police officer had done that. You can't pretend that stuff. And again, if we hadn't had that relational moment, and there are many more stories, other police officers at the games who go and sit with someone who's in a wheelchair to, because they have to be at the other side. And so I can't say enough about it. I believe we have created a wonderful working relationship that we can share with the rest of, the island, but broader. And I also believe that's why the federal government funded us for this, because we are one of those unique areas that we've made this commitment and we've been walking shoulder to shoulder. And Del and Jason, Colin, they're our brothers in this work. So thank you.
Fran and Julie, thank you so much for speaking to us today, and senior management. Clearly, this is a project and a labor of love. And thank you for helping to bring the board onto the journey as well, so that we can understand what is happening in our communities. And we're very, very grateful. Stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye, Julia. Bye,
Oh.
Fran.
Can I say one quick
Carla,
thing
go
before they
ahead.
leave?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I want to put my BC Association of Police Board hats on, but Fran, I'm the president of the BC Association of Police Boards, and I'm the rep for Victoria Esquimalt Police Board, and we're actually in the process of creating an awards program for our departments across the province. And one of those awards programs is community recognition. So when it's ready, it's where the community can then recognize good experiences with officers. And you have shared so many beautiful stories today that I wanted a shameless plug for this award that will be coming out, and you can keep an eye out for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Charla. Have a good evening, everyone. Sorry you have to work so late.
Thank you so much. Good
Thank
night.
you, Mayor.
I just lost my agenda, everyone. So we move on, and I believe we're down to minutes.
You are right, Barb. It's the minutes from December 14th.
All right, if I could get a motion to adopt the minutes. And a seconder was Sean, so Charla and Sean. Any errors, omissions, or changes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. The next up is the Chief Constable Monthly Activity Report and Update. Chief?
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Chair. I'm not going to go through my activity report. It's in your package on page 3. And I will just cover off a couple of operational updates that I wanted to let you know. Just due with the rapid spread of the Omicron variant, you may or may not be aware, but on December the 30th, we suspended all of our volunteer programming, and we closed the front desk immediately and until further notice. So again, this is something that we are watching day to day, week to week. And as soon as we're able to reopen our volunteer programming, we will be doing that. I just want to say that since the last meeting in December to this meeting here in January, it's been a busy month for Vic PD. A number of search warrants executed. I want to bring your attention to a couple files. We actually just did a news release on a stabbing incident that Vic PD had dealt with last Friday, occurring in the 300 block of Gorge Road. And we came across an individual who was in medical distress after being stabbed, and what was serious but non-life-threatening injuries from an edged weapon. Our major crime unit detectives continued the investigation and were able to identify a suspect and where he resided. And our detectives, working with our surveillance team, were able to locate this individual, and with the assistance of the Greater Victoria Emergency Response Team and our integrated canine service, or canine dog, were able to arrest the suspect on the weekend. Also wanted to just touch base with you and just provide you with an update on a robbery that had happened at a convenience store in the 900 block of Craigflower. And this happened a number of weeks ago, and there was a female suspect who had used a handgun and stole staff from a convenience store. Our integrated canine service dog was deployed in that, and the suspect has not been located, but we do have a person of interest, or we've got some leads that we are following up in that incident. I also wanted to update you on one other call. There was a video of a hit and run off of a dash cam that went viral that had occurred a number of weeks ago at the intersection of Bay and Blanchard. And the video was actually quite horrific. where a pedestrian that was crossing the street on a green light was hit by a vehicle who ran a red light. So we were able to locate what we think is a suspect vehicle, and that investigation is ongoing to determine if that in fact is a suspect vehicle and to try to identify the driver and lay charges in that one. And the final one I'll just update you on for the board is an incident that happened. It's an impaired driving investigation where one of our officers did a traffic stop near the intersection of Pandora and Cormorant. This was a vehicle that had made a turn to go the wrong way on the one-way on Pandora, was subsequently stopped in the 800 block of Cormorant. It was an impaired driving investigation. The driver of that vehicle tried to flee, and in doing so, one of our officers was pinned for a short period of time. The male subject was non-compliant, and we had to use less lethal, and a taser was deployed at that time to bring him into custody safely. Our officer slid on the ice to avoid getting injured, and unfortunately he was injured actually, and did miss a few weeks of work. So again, just lots of great work, lots of important work being done, and our officers continue to be busy on our streets and responding to a multitude of calls, some of which involve a tremendous amount of violence and a lot of investigative steps that are needed and are really overworked in many cases. So I'll leave my update at that, and I'll ask if there's any questions before moving on in the agenda. Thank you.
Chief, why don't you give us the equity, diversion, and inclusion and engagement update as well, and then we'll go to questions.
Sure, happy to do that. So if you look at my submitted report, it was a quiet month for me. It was I sit on the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police Board of Directors, and one of the commitment that the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police leadership made was that all of the chiefs that are sitting on as board of directors would complete a 4-hour webinar titled The Path. And so it's a history and contemporary realities of First Nations, Inuit, Métis peoples in Canada. And so that's something that I'm in the process of completing. I've done half of it. I've got another couple hours to go, but I just wanted to kind of share that. And that's my update. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions for Chief? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. Am I missing any? Well done, Chief. Great presentation, obviously. We'll move down to committee updates. And can I start with Charla again?
Yeah, so we don't have any motions here in our human resources package. We have 3 items. One is the reserve constables, which was from 2016 to 2001, an average of 43% of Vic PD reserve constables were hired by Vic PD, which is great because the reserve constables receive a significant amount of training. And then when they can be hired onto Vic PD can benefit from that. There's been a mental health and well-being project, which was in sponsorship of the union and Vic PD. So all parties are currently looking over the results of that, as well as the Special Municipal Constable Program evaluation, which is listed in the package, and I don't really have anything more to add.
All right. Sean?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For governance, we also don't have any motions this time. However, there's a couple items I'll just highlight on the agenda package. The member of the community from Esquimalt had a very good question regarding the Block Watch program for their neighborhood and their community. And our community program coordinator, Kimberly Kelly, and our Vic PD staff, Mr. Mark McIntyre, did a good job of responding about the Block Watch program and sort of the merits of it, and of course providing the information requested by the community member. So that was very good. The board did have a planning session about a week and a half ago, and it was one of the a couple of things came out of it. One, we updated a little bit of our strategic plan, just clean up the language or the wording, if you will, sort of a check-in. And we also received some training, particularly, we did some Islamophobia training, and I should also mention that we have as mentioned already, we have brought on 2 new members of the board. One thing I'll maybe quickly highlight is there is a website for folks who are in the first responder community, or even family members of first responders. So it's firefighters, paramedics, police officers, etc. There is a mental health support website which provides a list of agencies all across Canada for those who are maybe wanting some training, perhaps like say resiliency training, or maybe suffering PTSD, or perhaps are coming off a very tough call and would like to have some support right away. And the link is provided in the package, but it's basically pspmentalhealth.ca. It's both in English and French. And the good thing about this website, it provides a number of providers that can provide assistance right away, and not only to provide to first responder, but also their family members as well. And it provides all sorts of different training modalities, such as community support, one-on-one, online messaging. Some modalities, of course, are free. Some have group therapy. Some have costs related to them. So I think it'd be fantastic for the members of the public to know that this is available. So if those members of the public may have family members who are in this line of work, this is something that's out there and available, and is funded primarily by the University of Regina and other supports. So I think it's a fantastic resource given the things that we're going through right now. So definitely keep available and on your mind. So really, Chair, that's really all we have for governance this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that's a good amount. Doug, for finance.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just briefly, we have completed with the chief and our controller, Steve O'Connell, we have completed our presentations to both councils for the 2022 provisional budget. And now it's in the hands of both councils, of course, for their upcoming deliberations on their municipal budgets. And we did do a board scenario as shown on our report here at our committee meetings. And I hope all the board members and committee members enjoy these scenarios because it's somebody else's turn next committee meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of our committee chairs? You've all got the reports. All right, I'm not seeing any. The board chair, co-chairs report, just to say that we did have our semi-annual meeting with ADM Wayne Rideout, and we talked basically about the Police Act review that's going on, the special committee, as well as the shifting, potential shifting of historical military cases over to municipal police forces. It was a good meeting, and we're looking forward to the updates from the special committee. I will move to Charla again now for the BC Association of Police Board Directors update.
Hi, thank you again. So earlier I mentioned our awards that we are working on launching. So I need to put in a little bit extra work, and that should be coming out. And again, that is going to be community recognition awards, supporting our governance awards, as well as innovation rewards, which will be a BCAPB initiative led by each of the members of BCAPB around the province. We just recently had our board meeting, and Sean Dillon was able to join as well and added some good insight. We've decided as a board to not host our annual conference in Nelson, but we have decided that we will move to a 1 to 1.5 day event in Surrey. And we're in the process of determining what that might look like. I've reached out to Deputy Chief Colin Watson, who's president of the Chiefs Association, and he'd mentioned that would be in favor. We're moving more towards, instead of having external speakers come, to have this as an opportunity for BCAPB members to share with each other and share with the folks of the Chiefs Association. and just utilize this time because we haven't been able to spend much time together as a group in 2 years. So we really want to create a safe environment. We're going to rent a larger space than we normally would to allow for more social distancing and other issues in there, but really looking forward to finding a safe way to connect and share ideas after such a long time apart. If things do change, then we will move online, but everyone was very eager to try and come up with a meaningful solution.
Thank you, Charla. Are there any questions for Charla? All right. Thank you for all your work. We know it's a super extra load, but it's extremely valuable as a board to have someone, particularly in your position at BCAPP. And we'll go down to board member engagement. And this is where normally, outside of COVID times, which will be coming up, we hope, board members are out in the community and you bring back your updates on what activities you've participated in. Paul, go ahead.
I thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to point out and advise people that in February 1st, which is about a week from today, is the beginning of Black History Month. The Black History events for Victoria have just been posted on the Black History Awareness Society website. And I would like to commend to the board members and the chief to take a look at that to see what activities. There are both online activities and in-person activities to see what activities you, if any, that you want to participate in. I think it's a great opportunity to interact with the community and learn a lot about Black history in British Columbia, which is a unique and interesting history.
Thank you, Paul, for bringing that forward. Are there other members of the board that want to add? All right, seeing done. The next item on the agenda is the 2021-2022 board strategic priorities. The board had a strategic planning session last week, I believe. And so you'll notice on the chart that there have been some updates and changes. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm feeling pretty good that we've got the word complete beside a few of those. And so the board will continue to review these and at each committee session, we will be reviewing them as well as an update by the committee chairs. So unless there are any questions or thoughts about that, the next item on the agenda is the framework agreement. And that is for a couple of reasons. One is we want to keep that agreement front and center in our decision-making and our thought processes as a signature to that agreement. It's important for the board to understand what is within that agreement. And also, should there be any discussion around changes that we might wish to bring forward at any time. And we will continue to have those discussions. All right, seeing nothing with that, we'll move on to the Vic PD Human Resources Report. And is Inspector McRae here? Yes, he is. Welcome, Inspector McRae.
Thank you very much, Chair. The report is in front of you there. What I would call is a relatively mundane report, nothing particular sticking out here, but happy to ask any questions if you did have any about this report.
All right. Do you want to just speak to, it seems to me that January is sort of a time of year where we look at significant retirements coming forward, either happened, or just about to happen?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. We do consider this retirement season. we actually are in what I would call a slightly better position than I had anticipated. I had projected 10 retirements to occur in the kind of the first 4 months of 2022. And at this point, we are anticipating between now, essentially January 31st and May 31st, we're anticipating 8 retirements that we have formal notices for. So while difference of 2 doesn't sound like a lot, just given the totality of our situation right now, 2 is actually a good thing for us. So we are anticipating, as I said, 8 retirements between now and May 31st, and some great people leaving us and who've had great careers, and we're excited and look forward to welcoming them on their way to their next life, next chapter.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions for Inspector McRae? Paul, you have your hand up?
Yep. It looks like you have had 6 sworn officers resign and you were able to hire 12. Is that a positive trend?
Yeah.
So if you see there, we have hired several for the next class, so sworn in 7. It is positive, but what I will remind you is the time delay it takes from hiring somebody to actually having them deployable. So the recruits who we have just hired in this time frame actually do not graduate from the police academy until November of 2022. So it's almost exactly 11 months from now. So it looks better on paper, unfortunately, than the reality, but that's okay. We're still making progress. That's a good thing.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Inspector. We move down to the final item on the agenda, which are commendations. And I don't know, Chief, if you want to introduce this and just speak to a high level of commendations, where they come from, and why we post them.
Sure. Perfect. Thank you for that, Chair. This is just a brief summary of some of the accommodations that we received. And just high level, I think each one of them just speak to the extraordinary work of our officers, their level of professionalism, their care, their compassion, and how they undertake their duties and how seriously they are, how positive they are, and how comforting they are. And I think the words kind of speak because there's a multitude of incidents. When I was kind of going through this, everything from car accidents to wellness checks to a sudden death. So a wide range of responses where our officers are engaging with victims, with witnesses, and it's really nice and encouraging. And I know that the board likes to kind of just recognize the work our officers are doing, because a lot of times in this kind of anti-police sentiment that the police can never do anything right, it kind of sometimes is a narrative that takes most of the focus, when really we know that most of our officers, the bulk of them, the majority of them are doing great work. So I'll just leave my comments at that, but this kind of speaks to the work of our officers. And again, I just commend them on their professionalism, patience, and compassion that they show every day.
Thanks very much, Chief. Doug, you have a comment or question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a quick question or clarification, if I may, through you to the Chief. I really appreciate getting these commendations and reading them. I think they're great. But I just want to clarify, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are all unsolicited commendations from public. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And in some cases, they don't even know the name of the officer, and we have to look up the name of the officer because at the time they're just overcome in the moment of being, notified or coming into contact with the officer. But these, absolutely correct, Doug. These are unsolicited letters and emails from members of the public who felt compelled to write to the department and the board for their gratitude that they have for the interaction they had with the officer.
Thank you. I think it's important to note that.
Thank you. We've come to the end of the public agenda. I want to thank members of the public that have tuned in. I'll look for a motion to adjourn, please. You don't want to leave? A motion to adjourn from Sean Dillon and Bella Lee. All those in favor?